Like, yo, I'm Pat.
Hey Patrick, I'm Jeffrey.
Well, we're not talking about it.
We're
So,
well, have a good night, folks.
yeah, having a good night. Yeah, see ya.
Yeah.
This is,
Good to catch up with y'all. We're just not talking about it. No, what we were referencing is temperatures,
right, and superstitions. So,
and we came
I
up.
think we're already stepping like 1 foot in that landmine field. So,
No, what we came up with was the brilliant advice of taking aspirin for a fever.
yeah, before you go to the hospital,
Guys.
So, guys.
I don't know if you've heard this one.
Well, and like the funny thing is it's actual aspirin that you're supposed to take for that. So, like a lot of people are, well, I got ibuprofen. I was like, it's not aspirin, bro. So it's different.
Well, the theory behind that is if you take something that, essentially like a...
oh, yeah, you got the things.
I got the things. If you take something that's basically it's a blood thinner, right?
Right, but yeah, ibuprofen's not a blood thinner. So...
I don't know which ones are.
Ibuprofen is... It is an anti-inflammatory, so it prevents swelling. So, aspirin is a blood thinner. You're supposed to take one if you're having a heart attack.
Right.
And acetaminophen, Tylenol is a painkiller, specifically. If I recall. Again, not that kind of doctor. So,
right.
Just going off of... Man, these are so nice. So, I know this is in radio or television. These are the Zeiss lens wipes.
Yeah.
So I bought a box of these motherfuckers from Costco that just say lens wipe on them.
Those suck.
They are sloppy as fuck.
Yep.
So, yes.
They just push fucking schmutz around.
Yes. These are so much nicer. I need to get on Amazon and get me a box of these. So, because the Costco ones, that's one thing that I have found at Costco that does suck.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They suck at Safeway, too. The ones that actually say, like, Safeway.
Safeway lens wipes. Yeah.
Safeway wipes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. These are nice. So, anyway.
Yeah, that's
There's our product endorsement for the day. Zeiss.
Oh, I'd love to get paid for doing that. That'd be great. Happily endorse
for their
that.
5 viewers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's about conversion rate. So
Right.
I mean, if we're
sold 5,
if
we're about 1,000, baby.
it's like one, well, I'm just saying, like you get one, that's 20% conversion rate. Fucking advertisers go nuts for numbers like that.
Yeah, someone's gonna look at the bulk though. So yeah.
No, it's kind of it depends. I mean, it really depends because I mean, if you've got like somebody in there that like gets into a political argument and refuses to use per capita as an argument, then you could have like somebody that looks at our numbers and says, but the conversion rate, dude.
But the conversion rate, yeah. Where did that come up? That per capita thing.
It's
where the fuck did that come? That came up. Someone made that point, but then it was a self-owned because it was like actually that doesn't matter. What was it?
Well, I can tell you where it's been coming up lately for me. Okay. I don't know for you, but it's been...
this was just this last week.
It always has to do with basically saying that there are more white shooters in total than there are black shooters in total. But...
yeah, shootings have been in the news lately, man. Like the local news. So...
why? What happened here?
2 people got shot at UCCS. So...
for what?
Well, I don't know.
Oh, all right.
So they found 2 dead people in a dorm on Saturday morning. So, and I've gotten nothing, crickets, emails wise.
I haven't.
Yeah,
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, no. Well, you don't subscribe to the local Twitter feed.
Well, not.
So, Jeff, you don't attack townies, man. So, you actually go after named NPCs.
The ones that can't die.
Right, the ones that respawn in 10 minutes? Yeah. I mean, we're going to go do another cat turd run here, man.
You can get them to 1 HP, but they ain't going to die.
They ain't going to die. Yeah. No, there was that one. There was a gnarly one in Pueblo. And then there was, of course, the KC parade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, did anybody die in that one, though?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Was it like a lot of people, or?
It wasn't a lot. There were a couple of people injured, but I think it was one dead.
Okay.
And in Minnesota, there were...
I did see that one today.
I think 2 police officers and a paramedic.
Right. But that guy, the suspect in that one was dead. I did read that one today.
Yeah, that guy too.
Yeah.
Shooters in the KC one were black, but juveniles. That's
yeah, that's why they didn't release the names. Yeah. I saw that one. Yeah, the UCCS one's different though. Nobody knows what's going on with that.
It's the first I've heard of it, man.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, like it popped on like even the national news briefly there.
Did it?
But yeah, but I mean, like the cops weren't releasing too many details about it, so. Yeah, so of course everybody's like, move on. But then you watch local news, and it's like big fucking deal. So
I think that's how it's supposed to work. I think that makes sense. Actually, is that now that you say it, because we've talked about how news just sort of like disappears instantaneously. I think it makes more sense if the cycle is essentially that, like, all right, so it hits national news hard, and then it should cycle back to the community that's most impacted.
Yeah,
and stay there for a minute.
Yeah, that's so that's why I was catching up on the KC one, going through KC local news. So on that, yeah, it was actually pretty good. So, yeah, I thought I read that one guy had died, but I couldn't remember.
I think that's the case.
Yeah.
I thought like one person died, and then there were a couple of injuries. But
they slide tackled the dude with a gun. So
yes,
yeah, they got him. Yeah.
And there was a just this week there was another instance of the quote unquote thing that never happens, the good guy with a gun.
I don't know about this.
Oh, this is one of the counter arguments when it comes to gun controls. They say that nobody's ever in the position where a citizen is armed to stop.
Oh, but that happens all the time. So,
that's what I'm saying. Is just because it's not really reported on.
If something like that happens, it doesn't make it past local news.
Which is bizarre.
Yeah.
Totally bizarre.
Well, we've had a couple of those happen here in this town. So, and most people are like, well, yeah, like, old lady shoots home intruder. So,
right. This is the kind of stuff where they say, well, you'll never need it because this never happened.
It never makes it past the local news.
Right.
Yeah, but if, like, it shows up in my Ring app.
Well, exactly. The same thing. It's like, that's my mother. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
That's my mother fucking smoking people on her front lawn.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know what kind of firearm your mother is packing in that situation.
I don't know either, man. So she probably got on with a knife. So
yeah, that's kind of it's weird. I'm like, well, that happens. It's
So one of those made the national news, though.
For about 60 seconds.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like a normie human with gun defends home from invader.
It wasn't
or stops like grocery store robbery.
This was this was exactly it. It was in a public place.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it does happen. I don't know. This is a complex issue, so I'm not putting that as one way of thinking is better than the other. I don't know.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if nothing funky happens, it doesn't make it past your local news. So
yeah,
we've had a couple of those. We had a guy in a gas station here like a year ago, who they tried to rob him.
Oh yeah.
It was down south somewhere, but he was actually either a service member or a former service member. He plugged the guy. So yeah. And so, that doesn't make national news. It's like a guy trying to take my car and my wallet, man. So,
again, in some places, you can't do that.
Well, I don't know. Like, what do you mean you can't do that? I mean, as long as you're not violating any gun statutes.
Well,
So, I mean, I'm sure there's places where there's no such thing as like open carry. And so if you're strapping on 6 shooters on the way out, you get arrested for that.
no. Where they've said like, all right, so say for example uh, that you're parked outside, right?
Right.
Or shoot, maybe you're parked in your garage. It doesn't matter. So if
Well,
someone,
that's different. That's inside your house.
it is
That's
inside
very
your house,
different.
okay.
Yeah.
But if it's your driveway,
Okay, yeah.
all right.
Yeah,
But-
you're not supposed to shoot people from your driveway.
well, if you catch somebody stealing your car,
You're supposed to let them go.
and that's wacky to me.
It is, but it's also like, hey, it's a car, so okay. But if that guy's trying to break in your house, you can absolutely plug him. And I think that's pretty universal across all 50 states. So, yeah, I think that one's pretty universal. Now, if like someone's holding up a Walmart, are you allowed to draw on a guy, and endanger like 10 people around you? I mean, I don't know about that. I don't know if you're allowed to do that. So I know like states like here and then like Florida, they have that stand your ground shit where you can.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
but you do assume liability if you shoot at a bad guy, the bullet bounces off and hits a kid in the head. So
Well,
you're
yeah.
going down for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So um,
And that is to say that. So I mean, if there was the situation where the person at Walmart was pointing a weapon at you, right? I don't even think
I think you can defend yourself.
Yeah, I don't even think that liability comes into play there because you're.
Again, I'm not. Yeah.
You know, we're the wrong people. At
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
I don't have the degree set for this.
This is like one of the
yeah.
long list of things that we should like run a tally of. Like, need to ask an attorney.
Need to ask actual attorneys.
With the like stationery on the top of it, just to avoid talking out of our own asses. Need to ask attorney the following questions.
My wife did have a case once. It was up in I think it was in Teller County. Where a guy was basically stating that he had defended himself in his home. So, but it was exceptionally suspicious. And so I think they wound up charging that guy.
Did it have shades of ambushing or what?
It did. Yeah, it did. Yeah. So, yeah.
Where do you draw the line between ambushing and bushwhacking?
Well, if you're building booby traps, that's clearly over the line. Yeah. So, yeah, but I mean, home invasions are really rare. So they're not as common as people think they are. Like, it's not the thing where people kick down your door at 2 a.m., and try and catch you in your 90s. So,
Well, and that's to say kick in your door, I mean, or, slide through the window or
right.
some kind of, this is a sneaking mission.
No,
It's
I mean, a lot
not-
of people try and gain entry, like, by posing as, like, FedEx workers or something. Or meter guys.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But they'll ring your doorbell to see if you're home. So, I've seen like a lot of like things on like the TikToks and the naughty tab on Twitter. There.
Oh.
Yeah. Which mine was filled with porn this week, Jeff. So
Huh.
I thought there wasn't supposed to be porn on Twitter.
No, there absolutely is.
Yeah, it's fucking everywhere.
Oh.
So yeah,
Oh.
and it kind of comes and goes in waves, and then it disappears as they go and unleash the bot hounds.
Well, that's. I mean, that's it. That's exactly it. That's if you are basically a follower of any channel of size, right?
Yeah,
When you pop in there and look at the comments section, the first like 5 things will be people basically cross promoting.
oh, OnlyFans accounts.
Their
yeah.
services.
Yeah, their services.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Sometimes tangentially related to the topic, which is surprising.
I did notice that this week. So there's this guy that I follow, and I'm kind of over Bob on this one, but I still listen to him because he might turn around on this. But he was talking about my tax dollars being used in the, to bomb Gaza and showing like before and after pictures. And in his comment sections, there were a bunch of fucking guys in there who were like, "Yeah, can I send more money?" Stuff like that. But then right in the middle of it, it was like, "Help doing your taxes this year," as an ad, and I was like, "Oh, that's a nice touch."
Right.
I gotta be honest, I rarely wander into comment sections on any of those things, man. They're just absolute shitholes. So,
Yeah, unless I'm gonna attack it, then yeah.
well, yeah. I mean, if you're there for the venue, man, I mean, I get it. So, if you're gonna go mosh in the pit,
There's only okay. So there's only one dude that I went after at all this week. On I would even consider like I don't even want to say like a personal level, but I'm like I got an angle to attack you with, so I'm going to. And this was just it was. This is the rabbit hole that's problematic, like because like if you're going to look at the history of like military strategy, right? You're going to sit there and say like, all right, one of the things that we have to do in this operation is reduce variables, right? And you know, the problem with this is, so if somebody out there on somebody that you follow takes a swipe at somebody else, you can see who they swiped at. Right? So if you then pop into the original person being swiped and see where they're coming in, this is the problem, is you're like, where am I getting opposition that I didn't even know that was coming? Right?
Yeah.
So there's this, maybe this blew up on you. I don't know. This was somewhat, it was a story, but it was a minor story about did you see the one about the 90-year-old woman who got canned from the MS?
The MS? What is the
multiple
MS?
sclerosis.
Who got canned from it?
Yeah, she was a volunteer with this MS Society.
Oh, no, I did not see this.
Okay. Which my dad had. It was a minor case of, but he had bigger problems.
He had bigger problems, yeah.
Yeah.
He had bigger things on his plate.
It wasn't, yeah, the cause of death when they look at it is not going to be like cancer and MS.
No, that's going to be like getting paid $3.
It's going to be like died of super cancer.
Cancer.
So, but there's a 90-year-old woman that was a 60-year volunteer with this, right? She was asked, and I'm trying to remember all the specifics of this, but she was asked to basically like update her pronouns.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Man,
yes.
people are still doing that?
They are, and as a 90-year-old woman, she basically broke down as like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So they canned her.
Yeah, well, was she getting... Yeah, okay.
Look, I'm going to put it to you this way. If she's 90, I don't give a fuck either way, right? I don't.
No.
This is... It was just the bottom line was she didn't know what they were talking about.
I thought she said she was a volunteer.
She was.
So it's not like they're even saving money.
Nope.
Right.
So there was the president of that charity is in some serious hot water right now. I think she may have resigned, but people kind of went after her, and this one fucking dickhead
went after the 90-year-old woman, or the...
Yeah, he was going after the 90-year-old woman.
What the fuck for?
Well, because, you know, this is like, you should have a certain amount of respect, blah, 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 blah.
I'm 90. Fuck off.
That's kind of it.
Right, yeah.
Dude, there's a lot of shit that I'll excuse for anybody if they're 90.
Oh, I mean, like, short of showing up in clan robes,
pretty much,
you're okay.
Right?
Yeah,
right.
You know, like,
there are certain words that I'm willing to let slide. There are certain attitudes that I'm willing to let slide.
You're 90. You've got tenure.
You have tenure, and you know it's just that it's what I can say is at the best, your regime has a timer on it, and
right.
So me trying to set you straight or correct your social attitudes, it's not my...
So is said dickhead did he have the viewer count worthy of your attention?
Well, okay, the problem here... Okay, so he had a not insignificant amount of viewer count, but the other thing was that he had basically like professor stuff in his bio, in his title, right?
Oh, okay.
So
I think I've got that in mind too. but I don't talk to other people.
Well, that's it. And you certainly don't.
I'm certainly not going to launch a torpedo at a 90-year-old woman.
No, yeah. So I, he's making this big deal about how it's a big deal for he, she, it. To have the pronouns respected by a 90-year-old woman. It's like, it's good that they got rid of her. Like, all right, well, you, on the other hand, you're a dickhead, so I'm going to...
So what was the angle that you had on him?
The angle that I had on him was, I was like, all right, well, tell you what, you're a professor, so I'm gonna approach this as diplomatically as possible at first. All right? So I said, like, look...
Okay.
Well, the way that I said it was, listen, if you're confident with your identity, right? If you were remotely confident with your identity in the slightest, right? It wouldn't matter what anyone else called you, right? It wouldn't matter because you know, right?
Is this an actual named guy, or he's not like,
No, he's a named guy. Yeah, he's not. Yeah. He's not. Cat Turd at one hit point.
Right, Dr. Cat Turd.
Yeah. No, this is an actual name guy.
Okay, all right.
It's like, listen, yeah, if you were confident in your identity, whatsoever, it wouldn't matter what anyone else called you because you'd know. Right?
Yeah, sure.
The important thing is what you consider to be your identity. Right? So, cut the theatrics and let's get on with life. Right? So he takes a swipe back at me. And nothing special. I'm like, it's okay. So, his whole argument was, you know what, I take people at face value, you should try it. I said, well, okay, so no problem. You can have your kidney transplant done by someone that identifies as a doctor. I'll make sure that mine has certification.
Right.
And we'll see who has sepsis at the end of the day.
That's kind of good.
Because that was the whole point. I was like you're making a contentious point to a 90-year-old woman when you know that
a 90-year-old woman who's not even on Twitter, probably.
No.
Exactly.
When you know what you're talking about is something that's subjective in the past 20 years.
Well, and I got to tell you, man, your deference to professors in the beginning is probably a bad idea. So, because I've never worked with people who are both like extremely chill and cool on one hand, and then like the most opposite of that on the other. So yeah, there's a lot of variance.
I understand. No, this is no, Patrick. You got to understand when it comes to people with like some kind of like stature. This is the technique, right?
Sure.
This is Dune 101. The slow knife penetrates the shield.
Oh, okay.
You can't go hard because that's the same thing I know. It's like, well, somebody comes hard at me, right? I'm like, oh, well, I can ignore this because all they're going to do is they're going to shout shit at me, right?
Okay, yeah, you're fine, yeah.
So you have to just kind of...
I'm going to roll down your window.
So you have to ease it in there to get your way in. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time.
Okay, I understand. I understand that. Sorry, I'm not steeped in the arts of the Twitter Moadi.
Look, man, I mean that's the thing is if you're gonna most of the time it's just gonna like for me I'm gonna be the one trying to do the provoking right to get responses right. That's how I generate myself. It's very rare that I go after somebody or say something like that. I was like, oh, I got a guy that I think I got a sucker here. I think I can.
Right. I don't know, man. I've grown not my follow, but my followship count. So pretty substantially over the last 2 weeks, just looking for new perspectives. And now I'm fighting people that I kind of like, fight other people that I kind of like, and that's
exactly
pretty fun.
Yes,
I kind of like that.
Yes. I don't know what to call this. This is just like it's like the public square. It really is. It's like
well, it's almost like getting two teams in the playoffs.
Yeah,
you're not gonna really lose this one. So yeah,
right.
It's like my squares look great. So
it is. It's like I'm not sitting here espousing like okay, so obviously there are problems just in general when you say okay, so this being the public platform that it is and everybody's just thrown out into the open market and everybody's just talking trash. And somebody any big account says something, it's going to be inundated with pornography, because it's the public square. But at the same time, you're right. So if you have a couple of people that, like if you see Greenwald, getting into
some of the guys that I watch have gone after Greenwald and vice versa.
And
so,
you know what? He'll toss it back.
Yeah,
I mean, and you know what? This is...
The guy's a honey badger, man. He'll bite back.
This is and you're like, this is actually what this discourse is supposed to be. This is... Well,
Taibbi and Musk were going at it again this week, so...
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing is, you talk about what the value of... What is the purpose of the internet? And the answer is to destroy distance.
Yeah.
Right? And when you talk about this and you say, what is the value of that? You say you take two minds, right, that are worth listening to, put them in the same room, and be able to watch their discussion in real time.
Yeah, no, and Twitter still has that. It still has a critical mass of people who actually know what they're doing. So
yes.
It's as long as you don't wander into the comments, and then you start seeing exactly how stupid people are. So and it's kind of like, oh, okay, so you guys, so this is the remnants of the laptop class and the wannabe laptop class, cruising around down here.
This is where you have you have suddenly, much like during COVID, you have a lot of microbiologists here,
a lot of
attorneys, a lot of
here, a
lot of teachers,
Right, yeah.
A lot of environmental engineers.
Civil War historian here. Constitutional defender here.
See, the thing I like about you is I like the fact that if somebody said that, you'd say, no, you're not. I'd have read your book.
I'd have read your book. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah.
You're lying.
You're lying. So, Stars and Bars did not write a book.
Oh, he's arguing from that side.
Right,
huh?
right, yeah.
Okay.
He had the same one. And so, those guys, though, man. I mean, yeah, so, I don't know, man. So, Twitter was a little bit off my radar this week. I mean, I was poking around with it a little bit. Dan Carlin dropped another hardcore history.
He did what?
Yeah, he dropped another one. And so, it's all about the Holocaust. It's terrible. So
I thought you'd sort of like drawn a hard cap on that and said, I don't want to know about this anymore. I feel like
I think I know most of the things about it, but Dan's version kind of deserves my attention, so I just can't fall asleep to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, yeah. So that's been consuming some of my time this week. So
all right, I gotta ask you something. So this is something that I've seen put out there, but I don't know the science of this. Is the story of the shower heads actually true?
What about them?
The gas coming out of those?
No, it didn't come out of the shower heads. Well, it depends on the camp. So, like, Auschwitz is the famous one, and they actually had these metal cage like pillars in the middle of the room. Okay, now they had fake shower heads in there. They had fake cakes of soap that were made out of wax. Okay, just to fool everybody.
All right.
But the actual canisters used, man, would fall down those pillars, and then it had like chicken wire around it, and so so they couldn't get in there and plug the holes, so they couldn't get their fingers in there.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
and it would take about an hour and a half, so to actually kill everybody in there. So
that sucks.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd heard someone argue that
it did not come out of the shower.
Yeah, they were like, "This is impossible. This actually wouldn't work."
No, that's not. Well, I mean, I'm not familiar with all the camps, but the big ones did not do it that way.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah, so it happened, man. Just stop it with that, man. I know where people are going with that one. Just fucking stop it. I know. I see you. I see what you're doing.
What flag do you have in your bio?
Right. Yeah. We're gonna talk about they. So yeah. No, well, some of that was going on Twitter this week. It's been that one and the whole like the phrenology thing that keeps plugging parts of
What's this?
Oh, the whole like IQ shift and stuff like that. You know, the black versus white versus Asian debate.
What's the angle on this that you've seen lately?
Nothing, man. There's just some people out there who are really trying to make a case for phrenology using bullshit science. Just like you see the people who, you know where they're going with this. It's going to denialism at some point in time. So, that's why I stay out of the comments, man. But there are a couple of my guys that I watch, they punch back on that shit, and so it leaks in there. So,
well, all right, this is a tough one, right? So, all right. Obviously, okay, so if you're going to ask me, like, point blank and say, like, all right, so, you know me, obviously, if I had the opportunity, and I think I've spoken about this many times, is like, I would much prefer to live in a world where you just, like, say, like, well, you look different, but you are a human being, and therefore I don't really give a shit about your ethnic background, right? If I had the option to just erase all discussion of it and just say, like, well, none of us know, and none of us care.
About what?
About race.
Right? Oh, yeah.
If I had that option, obviously that's the one I would go for, right? Now, the problem here that I have is if you insist on making these breakdowns, much like when I was in education, right? And you say, like, all right, so if that's the case, how do you account for these gaps between these groups?
See, that's the whole thing is, like, depending on how you measure it, it disappears completely. So it totally does, man. So if you control for geography in any one of these things, it's completely gonzo.
Well, and so to me, like, this would be my entire argument, and it always has been. It's like, it's always been local culture. It's always been...
Yes, exactly. So yes, and so if you control for geographic region, so all the differences disappear. So
instantaneously, right. What I need you to do is I say, like, all right, so if this is, the truth of this, it's like, what I'd have to have you do is I'd like, all right, so I need you to take this satellite and zoom in on this piece of Trailer Trash America right
You find no differences in test scores between racial groups.
That's correct.
Yes. Right. So likewise, if you focus on a little part of Long Island, so you're not going to see any differences there either.
You're not.
I found out that we you actually pronounce that too. So
Long Island, yeah.
It's Guyland. Yeah. So it's got 2 G's in it. Long Guyland. Yeah. I can't remember. That was on one of the podcasts. I was like, oh, you're right. It is. It's always been that way. My mother-in-law's from there. So.
In any other circumstance, you actually eliminate both hard G sounds. Right. For in any other region of the world. Right.
There you double down on.
This is something. Yeah. Again, this is with students that I was teaching language. To overseas students. My whole thing is diction. I said, like, you must pronounce every syllable.
Right.
Every hard consonant. It's like, listen.
Yeah. Ours all sound the same. Well, they're supposed to all sound the same in English.
They're supposed to.
They don't.
They're supposed to. Well, the other thing too is that, look, you already have it against you that you're speaking a different version of English, right? So if you want people to have a less chances, like, what do you not want to have happen? It's like, well, I don't want people to look at me, and give me that face when they're trying to figure out what I'm saying. It's like, no problem.
Yep.
All right. Every syllable, every time. It's like there can be and they get it.
Right.
They get it. And yeah, that is in any other circumstance you would not say Long Guyland.
So, yeah, no, it was like, as soon as someone pointed out, I was like, oh yeah, you do that, don't you? There's an extra G in it that I forgot about.
It's weird. It's not. It wouldn't even be. It shouldn't be.
No.
But yeah, I got it. But yeah, that's the. But anyway, yeah. So if you take if I can grab that group of, like, Trailer Trash America and say, like, all right, What are the social habits here, right? And I can take that same thing and say, like, all right, so if I were to zoom in on, say, this zone over here and say, like, okay, so what are the educational and family habits of this Jewish group? What are the educational and family habits of this Asian group, of this white group, of this...
Well, even if you have like multiple racial or ethnic backgrounds within a single, like, certain amount of area,
right,
the differences start to disappear. Now, sometimes that's hard to do. So if you do it by like zip code, there might be part of like the zip code where there's a river that goes through it, or there's an interstate that goes through it, and one side of the interstate, or railroad tracks. There you go. So, and it's different on one side than it is the other. So it's how you slice the cake in some respects.
Especially when that division right there has history to it.
Which is why that, the other proxy for race in every single study, and everybody ignores this one, but it's 100% true, is just basic household income.
Yeah.
So if you can actually substitute household income from race, you can't determine which one is causing which. So there's actually no causality between like race and fucking IQ scores or test scores. So there's none. So... you can find correlations in there, but you can never isolate it down to the point in time where you can actually say. And the whole thing goes back to that book, the Bell Curve, Charles Murray, famous book, that everybody's like really mad about because he talks about differences in test scores and IQ and racial groups. And he himself comes to that same conclusion, but everybody takes it as like, oh, look at this really smart guy who teaches at Harvard, said blah blah blah. And so, yeah,
a really smart. This may be. Maybe this is what possibly spurred on the per capita thing. A very smart Harvard professor found that there was this... I think it was yesterday or today. Basically, I think he published his work saying that, and this is a black fellow. Is
is it Roland Fryer?
I don't remember.
It might be.
Did he publish something that said there is no...
Yep, that's Roland Fryer.
Okay.
I read it. I read it. Yeah, no, that guy knows his shit. So
can you explain what his findings were?
So his proclivity, he basically stated that there's basically no difference in how the police treat, individual suspects except for one category. So they're no more likely to shoot a black suspect than they are to shoot a white suspect. They are slightly more likely to actually use physical force against a black suspect. So, but again, that could be a random effect on there. So no, he's been publishing that shit for 10 years. So, and he got kind of like ostracized at Harvard, 3 years ago? Well, he kind of always has been, but he disappeared for a little bit because Claudine, what's her name? The Harvard person.
Oh yeah, Claudine Gay.
Yeah, so she actually went after him.
Yeah.
Because he had a student complaint against him. So there was sexual harassment. Now, I don't know the veracity of that. Okay.
No clue.
No, I don't know.
What I can say is he's still there.
Well, as soon as she got out, all of his funding came right back. So, and then, but I mean, the things that he's been publishing, the thing that he published the other day, it's just a follow up on his previous work using a larger data set. So he's been talking about that shit for 10 years. Yeah. So yeah. No, and he's a really interesting guy if you can catch him on a podcast. He doesn't make that many media appearances. He used to do a lot more.
Yeah.
But he's a big proponent of things like charter schools. And so he's obviously public enemy number one at Harvard.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, that Roland Fryer, he's a good dude. So, he's one of those guys who does math. He does his math. So.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is a good data analysis from a poor one.
He's good.
And this checks out.
He checks out.
Yeah.
Yep, he checks out. There's a lot of other horse shit out there.
What did you see?
I don't know, man. It's almost everything, Jeff. So much. There's so many chart fouls on Twitter. It's hilarious. And I mean, it's so easy to detect once you just even know a little bit about how to draw a fucking chart. So, it's that's not what this is showing, asshole. Look at the y-axis over there. This is a plus 0.05% increase. Oh my God, the world's on fire.
Bro, okay,
come on,
okay,
bro.
So, all right, so this is something I took a dive into, was basically the methodology of the hockey stick graph.
That's bullshit.
I didn't realize how bullshit it was.
It is complete bullshit. Yeah. It is absolutely complete bullshit. So
when they said that, like when they detailed how they got the data, or I don't say get
it's
the
a
data,
projection.
they extrapolated the data.
Yes, it's
from
a projection.
These two particular sources, and
that happens on every graph. When you project something to increase by an increasing rate, you always get a hockey stick graph. So it's that's simple calculus, man. So so yeah, those motherfuckers did that on purpose. So
yeah, and I thought that was particularly funny.
now you're referring to the carbon emission ones in particular.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, and the ones where they, if I recall, like they projected what the emissions were based off of, like tree rings and
lots of different things, man. So yeah, so some of the models are still pretty good, and they do hold up methodologically, but those are never the ones that get reported. So, because like what is it, IPCC?
Yeah,
they've been putting out reports since I've read quite a few of them. So over the years, it's like every 3 or 4 years, something like that, they crank a new one out.
Yeah.
So, but they always do. They statistically they do the right thing. So they disclose all of their assumptions, and some of their assumptions are extreme horseshit, but they disclose them. Okay. So, but then they put together models, the best case, worst case, middle case scenarios, based upon the assumptions, and so you can go in and you can double check their math. And what gets reported is always the world's on fire.
Right.
Don't have any kids. Right. Don't even bother getting a job.
This is this is the year that we've written down. If we do not make corrective measures by this point, it's all over.
Well, yeah, it's all over. So the doomsday clock is always 1 second away from midnight, which makes it useless.
I know.
Which makes it useless for telling time.
Ridiculous.
Like, wait a minute.
Fucking ridiculous.
You said that last year and it hasn't moved at all. That's not a clock.
This is the thing that that's what I'm saying. Is like, okay, so if you have a doomsday clock, so to speak, and this is my father talking. I'm sure your father remembers this too. He's like, so I was there loading the nuclear warheads on.
Right.
We were putting those on the bombers. Mm-hmm. He's like, I thought that was it,
right,
son. So whatever your clock is, that as far as you could possibly go, right? It should be set there.
Right.
How did we not roll it back like an hour?
Right.
After that didn't happen.
Well, that's just. Well, I mean, it's the whole it's just Well, let's gin up panic so that people do something about it, and we've been doing that so much for the last 20 fucking years with climate change that. You look around and it's like, even today, there was this thing, I saw this on the, I think it was on the Denver Post, where like the state of Colorado adopted new emission standards for lawn care equipment. And so, I know, and it's like no state agency, can use a push gas powered lawnmower starting next summer. To maintain its grounds. And I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And then they started putting in like all the math on there, and it saves like 850 tons of carbon, pollutants or something like that a year. And all you do have to Google that and realize that it's like, okay, I think my car makes that every single year. So, it's not that big a deal, But then on top of it, you read into it a little bit more, and it's like, well, this will only apply to certain portions of Denver County and Larimer County and portions of Weld County. Who have adopted, the state's goals for climate change as by 2025. And I was like, so the rest, everybody else is going to be using a fucking gas mower again still, right? Yeah, you guys solved a lot of problems there. Yeah. So, because I guarantee you, you go out too far outside of Denver and you start running into agencies, there's like, wait a minute, you want us to replace all these things? So... that we just bought? No.
Well, and then there's a question, replace them with what?
Exactly.
I'm sure, yeah.
Well, I mean, I've got an electric mower, man, but I'm not trying to mow fucking Otero Park with it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
well, and they're not doing that with a push mower.
No, that's true. And so it didn't apply to like anything that was over so many horsepower.
Exactly.
And it was like, well, that's dumb. I mean, you're talking about like what, 0.05% of your fucking emissions? So as a department. Yeah, you guys saved the fucking world. Congratulations. Yeah. Here's a cookie. So even Joe Biden was talking about that. His administration yesterday is rolling back their push to get everybody to adopt electric cars by 2040 or whatever.
Oh, right,
Yeah,
right.
so it's because I think somebody actually finally did some polling data on that and realized, actually, that's probably not going to happen unless electric cars get substantially cheaper. So, which is the only way people adopt them. So,
Well, look, and that's the funny thing is that this has been the argument since the 80s. This has been the argument, it's
yeah, but an electric car is a luxury item right now, man. So
Still
for a
is,
lot of people,
yes.
yeah, and so you can't mandate people to buy luxury goods. They won't have it.
No, that's absolutely correct. It's
Oh, that was the other thing. Never mind.
what? What'd you?
Well, you finish your thoughts, man, because this is another can of worms here.
Well, okay, no. There's something I want to dovetail to, but it's so off
okay.
topic.
You go first.
Well, it just the other, it was funny because we were talking about the IQ thing, and one of the other things that keeps coming up is this basically this sort of like Wakanda ideal of what the continent of Africa would have been.
Oh yeah.
If not for quote unquote colonizers, right?
It's ridiculous. So the whole argument is ridiculous. Just take a look at what's going on in South Africa, man. So,
well, I mean, this is the thing is they talk about like there's this argument where it's just like, well, all right, so this happened because of this. Like, all right, well, so let's show you your continent here for a second. It's like, all right, so before there's any colonization or anything like that, let's show you where all the activity is, right? And it happens to be part of this crescent circle, right, over here at the top that coincides with the Mediterranean, right?
well, yeah, but you have the Mali Empire, which has been around for thousands of years.
Right, but I mean the
But
whole
it's across the desert, so it's continent with a natural dam built across.
that sort of it, yeah, is like, okay, so here's the thousands of miles of sub-Saharan area. It's like without a pyramid. So I mean, it's like, all right, I get it.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying, but it doesn't appear that to like let the entire argument, right? The problem I have right now is there's this because that word colonizer is such in vogue.
Oh,
right?
it is. Yeah, it's the new thing, man.
Is
So,
the concept of this where you say that, okay, every inherent thing as a result of this in a time period when it was not seen as this way is completely seen as negative. There's a
oh, sure, yeah. But it's all bullshit, man. And people just have to do a little bit of reading. So, to see through that. I mean, the slave trade is the hilarious one. Yeah, so they always show
it's unreal.
Well, it is, and they always show like the great big fat arrow pointing towards South Carolina as, but it's not even remotely true. I mean, that's like a tiny fraction compared to what's went to Brazil. And then everything that went to North America is nothing compared to what went to, the fucking Ottoman Empire.
Yeah.
So, it's crazy. Yeah, there's definitely this idea that, so redcoats show up, they put you in chains and haul away rocks. Your God-given rocks, so, but they never did it that way, man. So, the Spanish would do that a little bit, so you can definitely make a case that, for the indigenous people of the Caribbean and South America and, most of Central America, the Spaniards did come in there with spears and guns and basically said, you guys are all working in the mines now. That happened. That did happen. So, but then later on when the British and French came in, maybe the exception of Haiti. So, but, all the colonies in Africa, it was basically, they'd show up and be like, oh, you're a chieftain. He's like, hey, we got a deal for you, buddy. So, you know what? You're going to make a lot of money. We're going to make you very rich and powerful. Okay. And you're going to help us do the same thing. And everybody was like, oh, yeah, I'm a chieftain. That sounds fucking great. So,
Can you give me things that will help me whoop my neighbors?
Yeah, absolutely. We have these things called machine guns. You're gonna love them.
The fuck you say?
The fuck you say? Yeah. So you guys are using arrows and stuff. This is great. Your neighbor's gonna love you. Yeah. So and like so, yeah, you have this whole like the Zulu uprising is something that I read a lot about, and it's really fascinating. Because it's almost like this pushback behind it. But the real reason why they rose up in a lot of those cases was because there were in groups and out groups amongst the locals. So yeah,
exactly. Yes,
so, yeah,
yes.
And one of the out groups was particularly fighty and angry, and had reason to be, but they got slaughtered. So because the in group had friends who had machine guns were willing to share it with them. And the same thing's true with India in some respects. I mean, India, it's not like the British showed up with 500 guys and subdued the entire continent. No, they showed up.
Possible, yeah.
No, they showed up and they said, "Oh, so you got this thing called a Raj, huh? Neat.
Yeah.
Can we be buddies with the Raj?" So you guys, this tea is wonderful. We love this.
Tell you what, we can work out
something here. And same thing when they showed up in China. It was like, wow, you guys really like opium, don't you? And this is all fucked up history, but it's not what people are making it out to be. It's not like, fucking London was built out of the bones of, fucking rocks that, locals mined out somewhere.
Yeah.
No, and so the whole idea that Africa's a shit show for like three very specific reasons. Number one is the population churn is just insane. So
yes.
You got a place that has never managed to industrialize. Okay. And so it is a very upside down and very different way of like life. Okay, so you don't live to be 80. So very few people do. All right. So you have a lot of young men, okay, so that run around and do things that, I mean, you look at any other society, you look at Europe, in like the 1600 or like the 1400s, or even go back a little bit, the 1200s where it looked like that. Yeah, they fought a lot. So yeah, and the war, disease, and all that stuff, it happens. You're watching it happen in a modern context now. Now it's changing. So like Nigeria is turning itself around rapidly. So it's basically turning into an American satellite in Africa because, like our mayor is Nigerian, man. So, and he came out of there and he was like, oh yeah, it's the most entrepreneurial society out there. So, but a lot of it is like when you pull when after World War II, when like the Frenchies and the British and everybody had to go home because they were all bankrupt. So, there's no administrative state anymore. And so it makes perfect fucking sense that the whole thing went bananas. So after that, because, there's no rule of law. There's no king with, a bunch of guys who show up and fuck up your neighborhood if you get out of line. So South Africa was an exception, but now, like, it's...
What's become of it?
Yeah, oh my God, it's awful, man. So it's terrible. So
terrifying.
I mean, you're watching a modern day society basically devolve. So right before your eyes, and people don't talk about it.
The shit that you think never happens is actually happening.
Oh, it's crazy.
The thing that people like joke about, and they say like, well, this is what I'm storing all that, fucking Campbell soup for. It's like, okay, well,
that's what's actually going on there. I didn't really know that until the ADV China. I started talking about it, and then I started seeing like the videos of like,
Kill
like
the Boer. Wow.
Well, yeah, not even that, but like actual like armed car robberies. Yeah. And I was like, where the fuck is this? I was like, is this like Los Santos?
Los Santos has a quiet dignity.
Right, no, I know, but it was like, what part of America is this? Let me figure this out. And I was sitting there looking at street signs. I was like, oh, this is not America. Wait a minute, what part of the world speaks English, drives on the right-hand side, and has weird fucking street signs? So it was like, oh, this got narrowed down real fast.
Yeah.
So,
like he's speaking English, but it's a different kind of
different kind of English. Yes. So yeah, so no, it's the colonizer thing. It's just I mean it's just frustration, man. So I mean like your super lefties are losing every argument they engage in. So I mean I saw them all screaming at the top of their lungs the other day when the City Council of Chicago. Passed the first major city in America to pass a ceasefire resolution. I was like, motherfuckers, you're not in charge of that. Why are you all happy? Israel's obviously not taking suggestions at this moment.
Well, on top of that, it's like you need to focus on a ceasefire resolution in Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You can't pass this on another part of the globe.
Yeah, does this apply to everything south of the river? You know? So, is that what you meant by the river to the lake? You know? So,
did you get them to sit down at the negotiating table?
Right.
It doesn't seem to be that way. Yeah. Yeah.
No, and so it's just left the angst because they can't win any single fucking argument. You know, like you're talking about the pronoun thing before. I think that one's dead in the water, bro. So
I think it's on its way. I think
it is not. I still work in education. I do not see it. So I don't see the mandates for it. I don't see none of my students do that shit. So you know, I mean, it seems like so far removed from actual everyday just normie life. That, you know, I mean, unless your mom is watching way too much Fox News, I never hear about it.
Well, okay, so I'll say it this way. So you're going to see this in places in Oregon. You're going to see this in...
Yeah, right.
Okay. You know what I mean? Right, so, but that's the thing is, to them, that would be normal. Right?
Oh, okay.
To them,
yeah.
You know, and that's the thing is yes, you're still going to see it because we have that, like you said, it's like it should break national, and then does it stay local? Right. And that's fine. I don't mind people getting exposed to this here. It makes perfect sense. But I mean, it's not necessarily a blowback per se. It's just like, you guys, I mean, you didn't let the candle burn. You didn't let this is the thing is movements happen organically, right? It's like trying to give yourself a nickname, right? You can't make it.
That's a good analogy.
This is the thing is if your movement has real power to it, right? You light the candle and it's gonna burn, and eventually it will gain momentum. However, if you go in there and basically try to force it, okay, you're gonna extinguish all your fuel really fast, because people are going to see it as a fire.
And none of it's based on dignity either. I mean, if you go back...
Not the slightest.
No, but if you go back and if you actually look at the whole... I mean, so like the last 20 years, we did witness one social movement that was exceptionally successful, and that was gay marriage. And so...
Right.
Absolutely successful, and it became one of those things. I was like, wait a minute, I got a cousin who's gay. He's cool, dude.
Right.
So why are we banging on him with this stuff? You know, come on, man. And so, you know, and it became a question of dignity. So more so than anything else. And honestly, the ridicule started falling on the Jerry Falwell side of that argument after a little bit. It was like, man, just let it go, bro. So, you know, it's not a big deal. So, and quite honestly, if it makes people happy, why are you opposed to it in this case? So, but now it's almost like the finger wagging from that side of the aisle. And it's not even an aisle, man. It's like those guys standing at the exits over there. You know?
It is. Yeah, they're in the fucking standing room only section, but somehow they're the noisiest. Like
they are the noisiest, man. So they grab the mic every single time they get a chance to. So and they're just it's just like you can't win any arguments, and you basically reduce yourself to shouting at the rest of us. And you know what? We fucking had it. So it's like, okay, we got shit to do. All right, so. You know, point this to us how it's why it's terrible to have two separate bathrooms. Okay, I'm listening. You're still okay. You know, this is not going anywhere. You know, or the same thing. It's like, tell me why it's okay for a female boxer to get the shit beaten out of her by someone who still has a dick. I'm listening. I've got an open mind about this. Oh, okay. So you're still just finger wagging at me. You're not giving me okay. Point to me where the dignity in this is.
Right.
You can't do it, and so you know you're gonna move on to something else. And the same thing's true with the Palestine thing. It's just like, okay, so tell me at what point in time it's you know, should a country never defend itself then from this stuff? Is that what you want? I mean, they lost that argument. They're losing that one right now. They lost the defund the police argument badly. So, you know, really badly, especially when they started talking to people in those neighborhoods. They're like, what the fuck are you talking about? We need more cops. So, you know how long it takes to get here? So, yeah,
there should be a police station right there.
Right, yeah, exactly. So, you know, they keep losing every single argument. I mean, and they have ever since Bernie got pushed out of the party. So, you know, he didn't get pushed out of the party. He lined up. So he lined up.
He did.
He lined up, and everybody's like, "What the fuck?" You know. And so now we're gonna go out and flip over police cars and stuff. And I was like, "Wait a minute, that's what you want to do the entire time? You just thought he was gonna do it."
Right.
Okay. All right. This is on y'all, not
Right.
him.
Right.
Yeah.
No, well, yeah. It's.
You thought he was going to tell you it's okay to do that.
No, I mean you're absolutely right. I mean this is the okay. So the policy basically of essentially the past 10 years basically of the policy of name and shame had some traction to it for a while, right? And I'm not going to say that all the results were necessarily negative. There are certain things that
Harvey Weinstein is exactly where he belongs.
Yeah, okay, there we go. All right, so always one step ahead of me. So like, same thing goes. Like, I'm fine that Bill Cosby didn't slide. Right?
I'm fine with that too. Yeah,
You know, that's so I don't mind having a closer eye put on certain things like this. But this policy of basically looking for like the smallest transgression and basically bullying employers into it's like, hey, this person thinks this.
Yeah.
Like, well, okay, so we put up with this for like 5 years and we did this, and we did this for 7 years. But at this point, it's like, what business am I going to lose from you, right, by naming and shaming my tire company? What I want to know here is, how many tires did I not sell by firing this guy who he's not a frontline employee. He just said some shit on Twitter. It's like, okay, you know what? Objection noted.
Yeah.
Thank you for your
input. So, would you like some coupons?
We had a discussion.
We had a discussion with the said employee.
Right.
So we've come to an understanding. So
Right.
yeah. As this is an HR matter, we will not be discussing it with the public any further.
Go. Right.
So come on, man. This is like,
Yeah.
this is fucking textbook shit. And so
It is.
yeah,
It is.
I mean, but like, yeah, a lot of companies got a little gun shy there. I think the whole Bud Light thing put a bunch of them back in a line where they're kind of like, wait a minute, why aren't we? Well, even the NBA in some respects too, because the NBA first, like, they were, but they were getting over the skis, but then they got their pee slapped hard by China. So, and they're like, wait a minute, what the fuck? Who are you to tell us what to do? So,
well, that was the funny thing is like you guys are bending the knee to them.
Right.
Here,
yeah.
Huh.
Well, they got booted anyway. So, yeah. I mean, it was kind of like, all right, so if you're going to lose, I mean, at least chart your own course, man. So, and I think they've kind of figured that out.
Well, and I think the other one that is really under the microscope right now is Disney. And
Disney is, yeah.
Disney has some very problematic things, especially some lawsuits that are coming here that are going to really, really cause some problems for them, and deservedly.
Yeah, they'll work through them though. So
I'm not saying they won't work through them, but the thing is, there are going to be some people that are going to have to reset their radars. Well, not necessarily radars, but basically their.
They need to be fired, Jeff. They need to go. So
a lot of people will learn for what's going to happen to Disney and make the appropriate adjustments because, frankly, within that crowd there were a lot of people like, well, these guys are doing this. Well, I'm doing this.
Well, and this is the problem with having one company that's too large within a single industry. So, I was telling you before, it's okay to have 3 or 4. That's pretty healthy. But if you get down to one behemoth in the middle of it, so... people in there are like royalty. They can get away with bullshit. And so, until the kingdom starts on fire, which is an apt metaphor.
Are you advocating for American Zaibatsus?
No, man.
Okay.
No, but a good industry has about 3 or 4, really. And the Zaibatsu's different, man, because they do all industries at once. That's fucked up. So this is why Elon Musk should shit or get off the pot on his 3 different companies. So what are you going to do? Space exploration? Car manufacturing, or social media? Pick one, bro. So, America, we don't do Zaibatsu.
In theory.
Well, we've tried in the past. They never last. They never go further than the owner does. So
there is that.
Yeah,
there's
they never last long enough because it's not a family business. So even Ford, which was getting a little Zaibatsu-like for a little while, broke up because, guess what? The founder had more than one kid. So
yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you played enough CK2 to know.
You're right. You got this weird fucking automotive King Lear thing going on.
Right. Yeah.
You're right. And eventually you get somebody in charge who's like, but yours is not the last name of the kingdom.
Right, yeah, your last name isn't Toyota.
Shit, I mean, Disney was like that. It's like you went to Roy Disney, and then
well, Roy was his brother.
He was, but eventually they turned to outside leadership.
Well, yeah, I mean, because the family was like, I mean, that's what happens when you have fucking. I mean, it's pretty rare to get like somebody, you know, who has the ability to run. I mean, running an American business is fucking hard mode, man. So, you know, yeah, it really is.
I know that don't get me wrong, there is like some palm greasing, right?
Oh, yeah, sure.
There absolutely is. But it's nothing compared to like,
yeah, my last name is Ben Salman, you know. I'm good. You know?
I mean, like,
I can play Xbox all day. I'm still a billionaire.
Having talked to so many people from different countries, especially like Russia.
Russia's so fucked, man.
The way business is done, and for God's sake, anybody I've talked to from South America it
depends on the country, though, man.
Well, okay,
it depends on the country. So
Brazilians made it pretty clear to me that a lot of their for them it was accepted that these were parts of business. Venezuela was a shit show, no matter how you slice it.
I know people from Colombia, and it's very entrepreneurial. So
that I can believe.
Yeah. Instead, you know, once they started breaking the cartels, you know, it's just really kind of like it peeled a lot of paint off this thing that was actually pretty competitive.
Well, you saw that election, right?
Yeah, that was nuts. So
that like 90% like landslide.
Yeah,
it's like it turns out that when you actually put the fucking bad people in jail,
oh, they love it. Yeah. It's like freedom's pretty awesome. Yeah. Yeah, Colombia is another American satellite country up there. So they're kind of like, hey, you guys have some shit figured out. We want to be like you. And it's like, we love that. That makes us feel so good.
But yeah, you're right. Because like in the American situation, yes, you can grease some palms to make some problems go away. But ultimately, if you don't put out a competitive product, it's going to break you.
Well, and greasing palms in America is completely different than Russia, too. Greasing palms in America... And like Russia, it's like, here's your sack of rubles. So
right,
and you know, here's one free hit ticket if you want us to kill somebody. Right. So yeah, you got to use that by Saturday though.
Right. Or you're paying full price.
Or you're paying full price. Yeah. So we're in America. It's like, all right. So tell you what, we're gonna bid out this contract for the next 3 years. I'll make sure that you get into the top 3 in the running. Okay, that's greasing palms in America.
Yes,
it infuriates people from other countries who come here to do business because they don't understand. They're like, "Wait a minute, can't I just give you gold bars?" And they're like, "Oh God, no! I'm going to jail if you do that.
You'll go to jail.
You'll go to jail."
Yeah. You have this like.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. I've had so many students from overseas from over the years who are just like, wait a minute, why do you have to do it that way? It's like, because everybody has to be able to find it if it goes to court.
Right.
So it's like, well, we don't want it to go to court. Right. Okay. But it's 9 times worse if you go to court and you can't show them that.
Right.
So yeah.
Because there is nothing that will get you on the radar faster than making sure that Uncle Sam didn't get his cut. And if there's anything that crosses that boundary, it's going to come get you. And here's the thing.
Oh my God, yes, this segues perfectly into what I was going to talk about.
Yes, go ahead.
So speaking of greasing palms with public tax dollars, so my God, that whole thing in Atlanta was beautiful this week. Did you watch any of that?
I most certainly did.
Oh my God, I couldn't believe how bad of a lawyer she was.
Did you show any of that to your wife?
I did not. So my wife is like 100% apolitical. She could give 2 fucks less. So, you know, just from a legal standpoint, she might be interested in it, but she know why I would be interested in it. So she probably wouldn't give me the satisfaction on how bad that was. So fortunately, YouTube was full of lawyers this week who were talking about exactly how stupid that was. So, you know, and how so first they blow up her boyfriend. Okay, and then she gets up there thinking that, well, I'm going to throw my weight around because I'm the fucking DA. And they tore her to pieces. to the point in time where people on MSNBC were like, she needs to resign.
Dude, the arrogance upon which she took that seat.
Oh, well, and then was like barking back at the judge on certain things.
Yes.
Yeah, it was just like, oh my God, you are doing yourself no favors. And then just the ridiculousness of like, well, and then she talked about like, oh yeah, I paid him in cash and I've got cash all over the place. Where'd you get the cash from? So she's like, well, I had some left over for my campaign. It was like, oh my God, that's not even what we're here for. So,
like most of the time, like if that kind of thing like happens, your actual attorney would be like running up to the judge.
Her attorney told her not to go up there.
Yeah.
So yeah. So right in front of the judge was like, "Are you sure?" So yeah. So
yeah,
it's like, would you like 20 minutes to reconvene? No, I'll do it right now. It's like, oh, this is gonna be fun. So yeah, and it completely like I actually feel kind of bad for the dude. So her boyfriend, yeah, because he got up there and he's kind of like, oh fuck.
Dude, in his case, like for him, what I'd be doing is I'd be like, I would be spilling everything.
He kind of did. He kind of did start doing that. No. Yeah. I mean, he was trying to backpedal on certain things, but then he painted himself into a corner with the sex question. So it was like, and you could see that like it took him a minute or two to realize that he had done that.
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh fuck. So
well. Yeah. All right, so I fucked up.
Right, yeah. I don't fucked up, yeah.
Yeah, then her fucking father's on the stand talking about how he knew about COVID before COVID was a thing.
Right, yeah.
Like, what the fuck is going on here?
Going here? There's definitely something weird here.
It's like, how do people like you infiltrate the highest branches of government?
I don't know, man. Yeah, no.
That's where I'm like, all right, maybe there are some palms being greased. I don't know. I would argue that in her case, I would argue she was probably placed.
It's possible.
I would argue that
I mean, they definitely do that, man. Yeah. I mean, both parties do that. Where they'll vet candidates and then they'll kind of groom them for certain positions. Yeah. And if they find someone who they think's got some political chops behind them, just in terms of like most of it is being able to fundraise, but a lot of it is, can you speak, in front of a crowd? Can you actually like? They don't care about your policy shit and stuff like that. I mean, fuck, I saw this whole thing. I watched Dan Crenshaw's shit. I've actually turned on that guy a little bit.
The one-eyed man?
Yeah, Senator Snake Plissken or whatever. Yeah. He's got a good podcast out there where he's very upfront about how Congress works. So, and it's like, that's great, man, because I've heard that from other people, and most people don't believe me. So,
what does he say? I haven't delved into that.
He was actually groomed to go into Congress. So he was actually groomed because he got out of the military and he didn't know what the fuck he was going to do with himself, and so he goes to school for a bit. Okay, and he wanted to be a political advisor, but then he just on a whim he went down to D.C. to meet a guy to talk about working for him. And he's like, fuck that, you should work. You should run. So I was like, what district are you in? And it just happened to be that the guy in that district was retiring that time around. Right. He's like, oh, we can get you through a primary. So he got completely groomed by the Republican Party to get into that spot, and that's how it worked. So yeah, and so it works on all levels like that. They like even the local levels, they'll vet and try and like they'll put their weight and the money behind a candidate they like for like a city council seat. So, but that's not mysterious. It's always been that way, man.
Right.
Yeah.
In fact, it's been more blatant in the past.
It's been way worse in the past.
This isn't some fucking Tammany Hall shit.
No.
Yeah.
So yeah, no. So like super delegates notwithstanding, it's not the way that it used to be. So but no, he talks about it, in fairly, he's
neutral
like,
terms.
Well, yeah, neutral, but he's like, hey, it's a job, okay? And he's like, a big part of my job is raising money for the RNCC so that we can retain, like, either our hold on it or get closer to getting it back. And he's like, and I draw a lot of money, and so they want me to do this a lot. So, and then he says, I like working on policy shit, but he says, there's times where I have to find lobbyists that I trust who know this shit better than I do and tell them to write it up, okay? Because I ain't got time because I'm going out to South America next week, and so, but we're going to have that in the floor in 3 weeks. And so it's like, yeah, that makes fucking sense. Okay. So I've had other people tell me about that too, where, it's like lobbyists are invaluable because they have to actually study that shit because that's what they get paid to do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So the question is, can you trust them? And he says, well, if they want to work next week, they can't put bullshit in there that's going to get you in trouble. So, yeah.
No, that makes sense. I mean, there are times when you and I have seen this. You and I have seen this a million times. Like when you see a congressperson, and basically you can see them talking, and essentially it's like they wrote the book report from the back of the book.
Totally.
And it's like, well,
read the abstract.
Yeah, you did, and you can't name any specifics or anything like that, and that's exactly why. It's like, because you're not the expert. You're advocating. Well, I mean, you're advocating an idea. Yeah. The experts do all the work on the back end, right? These nameless, faceless people who they're making good money.
They do. They make great
because
money.
They're doing hard work.
Yeah, and they get paid a lot.
But the idea, because I mean, when you've seen the size of bills and stuff, like there's a part of it is like, how did you read all this last night?
No, nobody did.
I'm a professional reader.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I can't do that.
The fuck are you talking about? Yeah. Like, I could get through it. I could say, well, I can say that these were the highlights because they came up multiple times. I can't tell you why any of them were important. The only thing I can say about important is the number of times they appeared. That's the limit of my note-taking I could do in one night.
Yeah.
When you hand me a stack of paper the size of a phone book.
Well, he was talking about that too. He's like, there's certain members in both chambers who do become experts on certain things because they give a shit about them. So,
well, they all have a pet thing.
They all have a pet thing, or it's something that's really important to their constituency, and they have to pay attention to it. So, like, Dan was talking about he's like, mine's the border and the cartels. He's like, I have to know what's going on with that at all times because people ask me all the time. So, because it's near my district. So, and it's like, so that's why he's like, yeah, I spend just as much time in fucking Mexico as I do in Washington. So,
I'll bet you, I don't ever really think about this, but I'll bet you that there's more than one, well, not more than one, but actually quite a few, like, congressmen, congresswomen that they're like C+ students. Like, I don't mean that academically, but they're just like coasting off of other people's homework. Like, I bet you there's quite a few of this. Like, they're there because they have some charisma. That's why they're replaced, right? You can just say things that gets people on board, right? You never have to do the heavy lifting. It's just like you come in, you say what you're supposed to. I'll bet you there's quite a few in there.
There might be a few here and there, but like even like as much as you hate like someone like Nancy Pelosi, she was an exceptionally hard worker. So and
back in the day,
no, even up towards the end. I mean, everybody.
Well, it's not over.
Well, no, I mean up to her through her speakership and stuff. Oh. Yeah. So, she's like basically a nobody now. I mean, I don't know what she does. So she's not in the news anymore. So,
no, just
she's got to be retiring soon, man. So
you'd think so.
Yeah, well, you'd think so, but she does like money. But that was the thing that, like, and even like her adversaries would credit her with that. There's like she was always there. She always knew what was going on. She always had the right answers for the right things at the right times. So she was just exceptionally. She knew what was going on in the party at all times too. And so, hey, man, I mean, you might not like her and stuff like that, but, still at the same point in time, you got to understand, what she's capable of in order to actually judge that correctly. So, I'm sure there are a few lazy ones. So, like, I mean, I've heard stories about a couple here and there, even in the state of Colorado. So, but like our guy here, she was retiring this year, who they did that a day after Lauren Boebert announced that she was going to run out east. So I was curious about that.
Oh.
So, yeah, because I thought for sure if this one opened up, she'd try and run here. So, this one would be a no-brainer for her. So, but
interesting idea.
The day after that she announced that she was going to run out east, he announced his retirement.
Okay.
And so he's lining somebody up for that job, man. So, but I've heard that he is a little bit kind of like meh, like he really likes his golf courses on weekends and stuff like that. So, but when it comes down to it, he'll put in the hours when it comes to actually dealing with like anything that has anything to do with the defense committee because that's where he sits. And so,
well, yeah, especially here.
But it took him decades to get onto that. So,
Yeah.
because think about it, it's the House, man. I mean, you only have one of those committees and you have 435 members out there. Take you a little while to get a spot on that thing. So even if you do have that constituency with you. So, yeah.
I get it. I mean, it's to me, it's.
I don't see them as boobs. So I really don't.
I think there's quite a few boobs.
I think as a group they act like boobs.
are the ones that you never hear about.
Well, I don't know.
That's what I'm saying is
I don't know.
like you and I. Okay, so we could go through and we could name. We could probably come up with maybe 30.
Oh, Congress members?
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't. So
That's what I'm saying.
no.
Like if we thought really
Members
hard,
of the House? No, fuck no.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is like if we put our heads together between us, we might be able to come up with 30. And that's what I'm saying is there's a lot of people that there are some big time voices in there, and then there are a lot that just disappear into the background.
Yeah, but those guys do stuff. So
They do stuff,
yeah.
but I mean that's the thing is I think that there are probably some that are just like any division of human beings where it's like, all right, well, there's a lot of like you go into a classroom, it's like you've got 3 hard workers.
Yeah, but they're not randomly selected. So
They're not.
Yeah, I mean, you do have to work your ass off to get a seat. And so, and most of the time when people are like going after a seat, it's because they've already accomplished pretty substantial things in their life, one way or another. I mean, they own the 6 dealerships. That's a big fucking deal, so, or something like that. Now, are there some family plants in there? Sure. I'm sure there are. There's like a couple local attorneys who get on city council and become political bigwigs in charge of the machine and are complete idiots, when it comes to policy. Sure. Okay. I don't think that's most of them. I would argue that most.
I don't know if it's
yeah.
most of them. No, that's not what I'm saying necessarily.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know if it's most of them, but I feel like there's enough. I feel like there are some that
I think the average Congress member, if you were to take a cross section of people and Congress member, I bet you Congress members would be smarter than the people by a standard deviation. So I bet you they'd be more intelligent.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Okay.
All right, and I'll go with that based on the fact that I don't. Number one, I don't think there are really any poor academic performers in Congress.
I don't know.
Not to my knowledge.
That would actually be verifiable.
See,
Though.
that's what I'm saying. Is I feel like
Well, there's an exceptionally large number of lawyers. So yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
that is correct. So I'm gonna throw that out there and say like I have a doubt that many of them were like poor academic performers. So I think that they're good at that no matter how you slice it.
okay,
Right.
yeah,
And I would argue that a lot of them have their wits about them, from the enterprises that they were involved with before, right?
right.
But that being said, it becomes sort of a competition amongst the group that you're in.
Sure, yeah,
Right.
Okay,
And I think that there are some that are just, I don't want to say they're dim, but it's just like they show up, they vote,
Yeah.
right? They ask, well, what's everybody else doing? Right. And
Yeah.
they form that off of that and come back and
Yeah.
do as they're told.
Well,
right?
yeah, and a lot of times they do. I mean, well, that's the whole point behind a caucus. A caucus always votes in the same direction. So, that way 2 guys in the caucus read the fucking thing and they tell everybody else, hey, do it this way. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, like, when you describe these people as boobs, I think there are definitely, and that's the thing is,
I think you find boobs on the local level a lot more than you would on that level. So, and I mean, that's just from personal experience, but that also goes from me talking to that water wizard who deals with a lot of local boobs.
yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
he's been pretty emphatic about how boobish some of them are. So it was like the only reason you have this council seat is because you own a shitload of land. So
Yeah. I mean,
that's because your daddy carved it out of the Ute wilderness, or your great granddaddy. Yeah.
yeah, in 1910. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and here you are taking
Here you
credit for
are.
some shit that you didn't do in a time period which would be completely impossible in today's standards, but you're reaping all the benefits.
Right.
You are a boob.
Yeah.
Yes, I get it. And what I will say is I would argue that, again, to compare this against other countries, I would argue that our percentage of congressional boobs is probably far fewer than most other countries. I think we do it.
Dude, all you have to do is watch like a fucking taping of the Duma or something like that. Or even better, like the Chinese one or the North Korean one. So, I mean, obviously full of boobs.
A game of professional head nodding.
Right,
It's
yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, that's come up a little bit this week, too, man. I couldn't think of it.
What, well, okay, so there are some problems over there in that block. I know Japan announced that they're in a recession.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh.
A couple places did. But that's no surprise. It's
with Japan, probably not.
Right. The interesting thing will be when China actually admits that shit is fucked.
It's bad. Yeah, it's real bad. Well, although I gotta be blunt with you, I can't watch the China guys as much as I used to. So they're still good, but
well, I feel like they're
getting a
covering
little clownish lately.
Well, I feel like they're covering a lot of the same material.
Okay, yeah. Right.
For me, it's like I like your guys' personalities.
I really like the personalities.
But it's just like for me, it was sort of like getting the big wave of like blowing my socks off, like knowledge, right? Hit me hard right up front, and then it's there was so much information for me to gather against this unified wall of misinformation about what this country is supposed to be and why we're supposed to be afraid of them.
Yeah.
So I hit that hard in the beginning, and then the trickle in of the weekly stuff. It's like, yeah, this is fun, but this is not required material at this point.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I'm okay to like dip in every now and then and see how things are going, because if it's a big deal, you know, it's like me in the emails. If it's important, you'll send it twice. So like if I jump in and you're still talking about it again, then yes, this was a big deal.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But this is just, I like the guys, so that's
I do like those guys.
Yeah.
I have found a couple other China guys that are pretty good too, though. So they're a little bit more serious. So, yeah. But I'm still investigating that right now. But I didn't know that thing about Japan. So
yeah, and again, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's just you know how this is going to be. Like
Japan's getting old, man.
Demographics tells the tale, and it's
but it's not always destiny either. So
no, you can change that.
Well, you can change it, or you can learn how to live within it. So
that's also true.
Yeah, well, that's what's going to happen to Italy, from what I understand. So Italy's basically nothing but old people.
Yeah,
Germany's not too far behind it.
Yeah.
Oh, Greece is not the same either.
Yeah.
So
it's old people too.
It's old people.
Yeah. Well, this was okay. So there's a question. When I learned about the Japanese housing market, this was fascinating. Did you ever?
Oh, they knock them down.
Well, it's not just they knock them down. The shit is dirt cheap.
Oh yeah, it's way cheap, especially out in the country. So yeah.
Shit's practically free.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, it's crazy. So
it is not an investment.
No, it's like a car. So yeah. No, it's completely
Wacky.
backwards. Yeah, I know. It's completely...
I couldn't fathom it.
Well, I mean, that's just because America's housing market is particularly unique, that... Like, I've been doing the cities thing a little bit lately.
Have you?
No, not playing. I've been playing The Witcher. I've been playing fuck out of The Witcher.
You know what? I'm back into it, too.
I love it, man. I love that game so much. So...
Bro, okay, I'll talk to you about that in a minute. But yeah, it's the... Because, I mean, when you break it down, I mean, this is, like, constantly, and I think this may still be true, as they said the best indicator of whether or not you're going to be financially, like, successful in life is whether or not you own your home.
Yeah,
here in the States.
True. Well, that's not true in Japan.
But that's what I'm saying is like, in Japan, they don't, it's like, so what do you...
They save up for the pension.
And that's so...
The pension, they take the rest and they stuff it under the mattress. That's why they constantly have, like, this, like, death dance with deflation over there.
Yeah.
So, but... I mean, Japan will be better off than probably China. So South Korea's not doing too hot either on some of that stuff either, because they're getting old too, man.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, and South Korea is, like, such a cultural leader for that whole area. So that, the whole, like, oh, yeah, you know what? Fuck it, climate change. We're not going to have any kids thing. So the North is going to invade anyway, so why bother dating?
Yeah. That's
yeah. Ew, sex is gross. Which is weird, man. But anyway.
Well, this is the population that's like, well, I can't do that with you, because unfortunately what that means is because I've had so much work done and you've had so much work done, our children will actually be ugly.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. All right. So you're up to speed on that shit too.
Man, I gotta tell you. So one of the things that I found at my mom's house a decade ago, right, was she had an old, like from when she was a kid yearbook.
Oh wow, they all had the same haircut.
They all had the same haircut, all the same uniform. They all looked 60s Korean, right? This is right. Here's the thing. These faces, look, my mom has had work done, right? I mean, this is what I'm talking about is everybody, this is before that time period. You look like, wow, these are Asian people.
Oh, okay.
Right. These all look like Asian people. If you took that same yearbook at the same time and put it in front of me in 2024, you would have very
You're going to be YouTube avatars, man.
Very American features.
Right.
On these, it's fascinating, right?
Well, and it's funny how that's coming back around because the aesthetic is getting really, really popular in the United States.
It is,
it really is, yeah.
For good reason.
It's cool. It's cool culture, man. So but it's definitely something that's I don't know. It's also leading itself into kind of like painting itself into a corner on some shit too. So because it's like, man, y'all gonna be old.
Well, it's weird because America, we are what we are, and what we do is, it's kind of like with television. We'll sit there and there is just this thing we do better than any other nation. It's like we're football scouts at every high school.
We are.
And we're just looking for cultural things that we can glom onto from any region around.
You want to come play in the SEC, kid?
It really is. And like when we see something that's taking off in any other country, we can steal that instantaneously.
The luchador masks last week. Yeah.
Dude, yeah. You're going to sit there and tell me that Vuvuzelas were a
right, yeah, thing? No. Yeah.
This is, and, when we find, because there's a time where it's like America's enamored with British culture. All right. We grabbed that, stole that, pieced it out, brought it here. We stole parts of like electronic dance music from like Central Europe and things like this. Mm-hmm. And same thing goes like, oh, you got what's this thing you got going on over here in South Korea? Right? It's like, oh, okay. I'm going to make some calls and sort of like gently introduce this here. I'll bet you there's money in this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I get that some of it is organic, but again, there's barely an Asian presence in this country, East Asian presence. When it comes to percentage of population, there is no way that would be organic among the population to spread that.
We'd never make it past the West Coast.
No. So yeah, we do a good job of culturally appropriating the shit out of.
I don't even like that term, man.
No,
I mean we're just fans, so yeah.
Well, we are, and this is the thing.
And we're the best fans on the face of the planet, man.
This is the thing. This is, it goes back to like the Washington Redskins logo, right?
Right.
That was designed by a Blackfeet artist.
Yeah.
With permission by the Blackfeet as a tributary thing.
Yes.
Right? And the whole reason that we took it in, like you said, is...
Unlike Chief Wahoo, but yes.
Chief Wahoo... So, he's always my counter-argument. But generally speaking, it's... Can we use this because it's cool?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we all thought it was really cool. So
it's not that people were like, oh, look at him. Now, Chief Wahoo.
Chief Wahoo was a cartoon character, man. So
it's a tough one.
Well, the Cleveland Indians go back to the days and point in time where like guys were getting shot with arrows, man. So, that's a little different for the
kind of where I have a problem.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And the problem is, I love that logo so much. I really do. I think it's
straight out of the 1910s.
The simplicity of it is so gorgeous, right? And the feeling of warmth that comes along with it it's utterly iconic, but it is insulting.
Well, it is, but it's not like no worse than like fucking 1,000 high school football teams across the face of the planet. I mean, fucking Palmer's like His mascot was called Eagle Beak for years, and it's got this huge schnoz on it. Yeah, I know, man. So, and that goes back since like 1920, so or whatever.
Right.
So,
Right.
okay, fine. There's certain things, yeah, that belongs in a museum, So, but there's other things. It's kind of like, step the fuck off. It doesn't mean that. Yeah, stop that. Yeah.
Yeah. It really is. Again, it just the fact that these things are done with like because nobody makes a sports collective with the idea of let's mock this.
Right. Yes. So it's a fundamental misunderstanding of what's actually going on there. So it's just like racism. It's a fundamental misunderstanding. It's like like the Klan's not looking for victims; they're looking for recruits. They get enough of those, then they'll go start finding victims. Okay, but it doesn't work like that right now. So
No, because
that's because we got them on the ropes, man. So and it's been that way since the 1960s. This is great. This is good. This should be celebrated.
you're absolutely right. Well, and it's the problem with the problem with the recruitment process is a lot of that just stops as soon as you present it. It's like they're going to present this pamphlet to you of these ideas. You're like, wait a second.
Right.
You're like, I don't want like.
Who are these they?
You're like, well, that's not true. My sister's married to one of them. He's a cool guy. Get the fuck out of here.
Get off my yard. Yeah, exactly. Same thing. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Now you're questioning whether or not the Holocaust happened? So, so I thought we were here to talk about World War II memorabilia. So,
right.
You're one of those guys,
yeah, that's the as Patrick, as you know, this is like the problem with say like the gun club is that you have a lot of people who are very well intentioned, right? They love the mechanics of it. They love to talk details. They love to talk like, well, why is this board out this way? What effect does this have? Blah blah blah. And then you have that group of. So you want to talk about they?
Yeah. So
right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, so this is an Israeli design. So
yeah,
which they ripped off from the British, right? You knew that, right? So
oh, well, okay. So the failure to credit any, it's like
no, I'm making that up just because it opens the door to the they argument.
Of course,
yeah. So
yeah.
No, it's. I ain't got no time for that, man. So
no, it's stupid. It actually takes away from the fun part of the actual hobby.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I seen this on a couple things. I went down an Axis and Allies like wormhole.
Did you really?
Yeah. Just
how deep does this go?
Oh, YouTube is fucking chock full. So yeah, you talk about rabbit holes that go in all different directions. But I ran across this one guy, and these guys are running this tournament. Okay, and you remember the little cardboard chits, the little the circles, the rondels that you would use to mark whether or not you had taken a territory. Oh, yeah. So anyway, I ran across this one guy, and he was doing this tournament, and he had like ones that had swastikas on all of them. And I was sitting there thinking about this in some respects, and I was like, "Oh, all right, okay, so maybe you're one of those historical accuracy kind of guys." Okay.
Was he?
No. So, and it took me about 10 seconds to figure this out because, I mean, it did. I had to sit there and look at it and think about it a little bit. But then, like, my nerddom kicked in because I was actually, like, sitting there looking at it. I was like, wait a minute. Those are all the actual rondels that they would use on the aircraft to identify each nation.
Oh.
And the German one actually is that cross, not the fucking swastika.
Really?
So you made those fucking special and put them on this board. Okay.
No shit.
Yeah. Oh, it's like it took me a minute to realize that. I was like, oh, actually that makes sense because otherwise they'd be flags. But they're not flags. They're the actual like markings for the airplanes. So in each one. And so somebody made special swastika ones thinking that he was being historically accurate. But more likely he could use that as cover, and then the actual shit or chit itself was for recruitment.
Well, that's fascinating. Okay, because I did wonder that at some point, but then I hadn't considered that. That makes perfect sense.
It is. It's the actual like symbol that they put on the airplanes. So
in hindsight, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it.
Yeah. Because it's got the British one that's got the fucking bullseye.
The bullseye.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So yeah.
Instead of the
Yeah. So anyway,
Jack, yeah.
that was so. Yeah, that ended my foray into Axis. Now, as I was watching these two guys play a tournament, and they actually did really well. It was kind of fun to watch. But
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, it was kind of cool. But no, I've been playing The Witcher, so
Yeah,
it's got its hooks into me, bro.
So I'm back. Don't get me wrong, but it did. So I hadn't played this in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't played this since it came out. And I had to do a lot of finagling to get this thing to run right.
Oh, really?
It's not what you think.
Oh, okay.
It's not what you. So okay, so when you throw that in there, it's going to have some presets in it. It's like, okay, that's fine. I'm just going to run it the way that you do. So at first, I'm like, why does this look so like choppy, right?
Mm.
Now the thing is, you have to go in there and tell it like, don't run this at 30 FPS.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like, it's like, oh, why is my card struggling with this game? It's like, all right, so number one, it's set to this, but then I turn it up to 120 FPS, running fine, right? Mm-hmm. But, and I'm trying to remember before, and like about 5 minutes in, I'm just kind of like wobbling, and it's like, right? It was like I was feeling like seasick from it.
Oh, really?
And there were a couple of settings like, why the fuck is this like this? There's no FOV slider in that game. Right? But they do have a camera option that, number one, it centers it, right? And zooms it out a little bit.
Okay.
Right? Once I found that, I could play the game, but I was stopping every 5 minutes like, what's wrong with me?
Oh, really?
Like, this game, yeah, because
I did not have that problem, but I might have figured that one out before. I can't remember because, I mean, the last time I played it was on this machine. And so when I reloaded it, it had all my old settings in there.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay, because I played it on console back then.
Got it.
And, yeah, there was just something to it where I'm fucking with all the things. I'm like, is this a motion blur thing? Let me turn that off. Let me do all this stuff. And, you know, in the beginning, too, when it was running, like, kind of choppy, I was like, all right, shit, well, let me turn down these sliders and stuff. I was like, that's not fixing it. So then when I turned up the FPS, man, I was ready to barf. I'm like, fuck. And then, yeah, if you zoom, and especially like in that zoom, because there's a camera mode, and I don't think it was like this back then. I think these are new things from before when I played it. But
they did have a big update like 2 years ago.
When you play the straight camera, you're like right behind Geralt's shoulder. Like right
you can
behind
zoom
it.
that out.
Yeah, like right behind it.
No, yeah, his head takes up like a third of the screen. Yeah, it's weird.
And especially when you turn on like the Witcher senses, I'm like,
oh yeah, you got to turn the fisheye off, man. Jesus. Otherwise, that one will make you barf. I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, because otherwise it goes completely fisheyed on you.
Jesus,
yeah, that one's not good.
I'm telling you, like I kept jumping in. I tried like 4 times. I'm like, I can't get back into this. There's something wrong with me now. Like, how did I play this before and not have a problem? I thought, I thought I was in trouble there. But then I found like, oh, these are all just settings. Why in God's name would you think these should be the defaults?
I don't know, man. But I do remember having to fuck with it a little bit. I remember having to roll back my DirectX settings. So
it did?
Yeah, I think so. I don't remember. I mean, so it ran on like 11 rather than 12. I can't remember. It was something like that, and it fixed everything. And then, except for that stupid fisheye, and then of course you can zoom out.
You toggle it off.
Yeah, you just toggle that off.
Yeah, and then once I got everything running and I could actually play it, the second thing hit me like right in the nuts. Right?
What's that?
Was, why does this game that came out like fucking 6 years ago
look so good?
Why does this look so much better than shit that came out last week?
Last fall. Yeah, exactly. I was noticing that too with the character models. Now, one thing that I do remember in this game is there's like maybe like 10 or 15 different faces. And then they just changed the haircut and stuff like that later. So you see the same guy over and over again. But I was sitting there looking at like, you know, just the first couple NPCs that you run into where you have like... So, like, one thing that I noticed right off the bat is that Witcher's very good about changing the camera angle repeatedly during conversations. So that's quite clever.
Well,
rather than getting fucking stared down by Sarah, unflinchingly locked onto your eyes. So, you know,
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, there are certain things where, like, I know what's happening, and I know why you're doing it, and I know it's like, why do you always pan up every time that somebody's going to hand something to me or I hand something to them?
Right.
And it's fine. It's fine. Because I understand that me handing you the head of a dead thing is not something that you necessarily want to render with me pulling it out of my back pocket.
Right, yeah.
Got it. All right. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
Right, yeah. Yeah, why do I stare at this door before I open it? Yeah, exactly. So there's little things like that, but the game looks so fucking good.
Crazy
compared to like some of the stuff that we've seen over the last year. So, but yeah, I mean, just coming after Cyberpunk, it's kind of like, oh man, this game looks great, even though it's like 8 years older than that one.
It's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wild how much better it
Bananas.
is. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a couple things. It's like, okay, so that's floating. All right, so yeah, all right. So the water is not the best. So it's not terrible, but it does. You swim in it like peanut butter, So it's like that's okay. So, but then like I forgot how much fun the combat is in this game. So
the combat.
I forgot how much I loved it. So
look, the all right. So what I'm going to say here is that the actual like countryside, right, has the same personality that Night City does in its own way. Because when you go out there and you're actually, if you take the time to just, you're going to do this no matter what. Like, you get off your horse and you're walking somewhere and you're just, like, looking at the grass blow around you. I imagine this would be the same thing you felt in Red Dead.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But there's just something where the land has a personality to it, and there's so much of it where it's not like rocks and then, like, broken shit.
Right.
And then rocks.
And then more rocks. And then more broken shit.
And then broken shit. And then like you're mining for what out here?
Right.
It's
Dolomite, baby.
I expect that. Yeah. So I'm. It's nice to be coming back into that. I'm doing all the DLC fresh and all that stuff. So.
I started a whole new game. So. Yep. I had played it. My last save was from 1.5 years ago. So yeah, it had been a little bit, but then I was starting all over, and then I had forgotten about like the skill tree system and stuff like that. So
me too.
I'll have to kind of like work my way through that a little bit. But I seem to recall like you want to keep the first piece of armor. I can't remember that. I think there's a reason why, but I can't remember. I'm not going to look anything up though.
No,
so, there are already a couple quests that I was doing because just stomping around that first village, where it's like, oh yeah, I kind of remember this, but I don't remember what I did. So and then now like it's like I did one thing where they hanged a guy, and I was like, oh, I didn't want to do that, man.
No, I gotcha. Yeah. But you just kind of like, all right, well, I got to live with it. Yeah.
I did not go back, and I'm not going to do that thing where I reload a save. So I did that in Cyberpunk a lot so I could see a lot of the different endings. This one I was just going to ride it, so I'll just ride it all the way through. So.
That's exactly it. And I do lament that I didn't get what I think would be like the fun playthrough at the end of Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
You know what? And the truth is, I will come back on that someday.
Yeah.
Because I never played it as a female character. I want
That's
to.
Cool. Yeah.
And I'm going to do it that way. And play with a completely different skill set than anything that I've done. Because there are still ones that I haven't done yet.
I've never done gorilla arms, so I might have a female character who can fucking rip your head off.
It's a way to play. There is something fun to that. There was something fun to being the guy with the baseball bat and saying like, this is my non-lethal baseball bat. This is how I solve problems. Because my
I punch you to death.
Yeah, well, because that was my whole take. I think a lot of you are redeemable. You just need one good beatdown to learn your lesson, right? And I was cool with that. I was like, you know what? I don't want to. This isn't Max Payne. I don't want to. I don't want to put 2,000 bodies in the morgue today. It's just like a lot of you need to learn your lesson.
See, I killed a lot of people in my life. I mean, a lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like a ridiculous amount. Like, because I developed this philosophy is like, all right, I'm gonna sneak in here and get this thing, and if I get found out, everybody dies, so nobody knows that I was here. So
yeah.
And then just doing that with cyber hacks and melting people over a video camera was so much fun, but it was very bloody.
Right. And again, that was the disconnect there, when you're doing guerrilla arms. And again, part of this is picking them up and throwing their body at other people for damage, and they explode. Like, their bodies will explode when you do this. On top of that, of course, you can pick them up and you just like vault them in the air, right? So like, I would have moments where like, this disgusts me, and I would take the bodies and I would just throw them like one after the other into the highway, right? Just
That's a very Red Dead thing to do, man. Yeah. It's like, well, we gotta clean this up. Where's the train tracks? Let's see how many bodies I can stick on my horse here.
Yeah, that was the other thing. Was like, I'm like, all right, well, if I'm not supposed to be detected, like, I could put this person in this freezer, or.
Did you notice this time on the playthrough it said lethal if you did that? Whereas before it was like, no, man, he's just gonna take a nap in the dumpster. And now it's like, no, lethal is like, what is there, a grinder in here?
Yeah. It's that thing they put cows in.
Right, yeah, exactly. Right, yeah. To chew up your engine block or your bodies at the same rate.
Yeah. So no, it's cool to go back into this. I'm actually having a lot of fun with it. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Just like rediscovering all this shit. So it's cool.
No, it's cool. Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, no, it's been fun.
Yeah.
So we'll get through it. All right. Is that our final thought for the day?
Why not?
Okay. I'm Pat.
I'm Jeffrey.
Hitting the button.
All right.